This is a slideshow about how we replaced the port lights and hatch lenses or hatch acrylic in our boat. Our 43-foot ketch is a pretty big job, not something you do lightly, but there's a lot of money to be saved by doing it yourself and also by making sure that it's done properly. We had a whole range of different acrylic Perspex in our boat. There was some that was original, some that had been replaced halfway through its life, some replaced recently. It was all different thicknesses. Some was tinted, some were clear, some 4mm, some 6mm. They were held in with different things: Sikaflex, silicone, bolts. The ones that faced upwards on the tumble home on the side of the hull were the worst, of course. They were very badly crazed from the sun. This one here, for example, has been glued in with Sikaflex, but it's very badly crazed. This is an old, very original one. You can see the crazing right in the corner there, held in with bolts and silicone. These all leaked really badly, and they were only 4mm thick. This one's held in with Sikaflex, but you know, this is not attractive really. And it's clear Perspex. You can see all the mess inside. And just pretty scruffy generally. So the decision was made to replace them all in one go. Big job. Cost about $2,000 in materials, but probably would have cost double that if we'd had someone do it. So, the way we ended up doing this was to first remove the old acrylic, try and keep them intact, otherwise just stick them together with sticky tape if they came out in pieces, and use them as templates for the new ones. It's good to make sure that the templates that you're using are fitted properly in the first place. Sometimes people fit things that don't quite fit, and as I'll mention later, it is very important to have good spacing for the sealant. You need a good minimum thickness of sealant for flexibility. So we cut new acrylic from the templates. Then you go in, clean up the old surfaces, make them as absolutely clean as possible. In our case, we used a multi-tool to chip through the gel coat and remove any silicone, any sealant of any kind, clean up really well with acetone, etc. Filled up the old holes and made 4 new ones. Then you glue them in. We used 4 bolts, 2 bolts in either corner and opposing corners just to force the curve, and also using spacers so that bolting the acrylic in wouldn't squeeze out the sealant. Getting the windows out was the first job. Some of them unbolted, and just the ones with silicone just were prized out with a paint scraper after undoing the bolts, and they just about fell out. The ones that were held in with Sikaflex, I used a multi-tool, or an oscillating blade like this one. You stick it down from the interior, between the fiberglass and the Perspex or acrylic into the sealant. We were going to go with bolts all the way through, but after the huge amount of effort involved in getting out the ones that had been done properly with Sikaflex, we decided that Sikaflex was definitely the way to go, that it was indestructible, as long as you do it properly, and there is a trick to it. Also, a trick we used was to put a piece of drill a hole, put a piece of string through the Perspex, so when we did get it free, it wouldn't fall in the water, and we could use it as a template. Just like that. You can see all of the black leftover Sikaflex still adhering to the boat. And also you can see the Sikaflex adhering to the Perspex. The only bit where it's missing is that bit on the right hand side of the lens where it's just shattered off in trying to remove it. This is the interior view. You can see the old bolt holes. Not a lot to see there. It's always a job with doing any of these things is removing the internal fittings so that you can get at everything. That's a whole separate ball game, but it's different in every boat. There's another one with 2 gone. The hatch aperture on the right has been cleaned up. I also cleaned these up using the multi-tool because if you use a multi-tool with a straight blade and just use it sort of end on, it makes a fantastic sanding, carving sort of dentistry tool. So I was able to take it back to clean fresh fiberglass or gel coat in that case. As everyone knows, silicone, the ones that were held in with silicone, that has to be completely removed. Otherwise, because nothing sticks to silicone, not even silicone. And the one on the left here is still is a Sikaflex window, and that's still yet to be cleaned up properly. When you do come to put them back on, masking is a big part of it. You've got to mask around the outside. and you've got to mask the Perspex you're putting in. A lot of masking tape goes into this, and you know, as everyone who knows who's used any Sikaflex or any sealant like that, it goes everywhere, especially if there's wind blowing. It's just a nightmare. Lots of plastic gloves, paper towels. You can clean it up with metho. It seems that metho and alcohol you can use on acrylic without staining it, but any harsher and it just ruins it. So we bought one large plywood size sheet of 6mm Perspex for all of the side windows, and we used 10mm Perspex for the top ones. Cut them all out in scale size, and then put them on a piece of paper cut to size so that we could make sure we got all of the hatches, as many hatches as possible, out of one sheet. And we worked all of this out before we bought the Perspex. It's much cheaper to do it this way. This is initially finding out which hatches were needed. This is the joint design. So the most important thing with Sikaflex is, well, there are two really important things. You've got to use the primer if you're doing it on acrylic. Don't even try and do it without the primer, it'll just peel off. The other thing, the joint has to be sufficiently thick. Sikaflex will bend, but the thicker it is, the more bend it'll take. If you put it on too thinly, it'll just tear. So use the instructions on the bottle, or from the website, read the manual, and make sure your joints are thick enough, have enough Sikaflex in them. You can see there is a spacer in red. That's just a little bit of rubber gasket which cut to size and poked in there to make sure that the windows couldn't be compressed too much when bolting up. We only used 4 bolts, 2 in 2 corners, just to take the curve and hold them in place while they set. But you need a spacer in there to make sure that you don't squeeze out the Sikaflex. That's the stuff we use. 295 UV, which ranges from $25 to $30 a tube. It's expensive. And the primer, 209D, you have to use that primer with Perspex, otherwise it will just peel off. You can see here a test. I just dabbed down. On the left, you've got Sikaflex on shiny Perspex with no sanding and no primer. Second one from the left is Sikaflex on sanded Perspex, no primer. Third one from the left is Sikaflex with primer and no sanding, and then on the one on the right is Sikaflex with priming and sanding. The two on the left without primer, one sanded and one not, just peeled straight off. Absolutely zero adhesion. Don't even bother doing this without primer. It's a waste of time and money. Two on the right, one sanded and one not, but both with primer, could not be removed. I tried digging that out with a screwdriver. It's completely welded on. So this is the most important thing. There you can see on the right, one window in, and on the left, one is just been dry fitted. It's ready. It's got the bolts. Keep the brown paper on as long as possible. There's 3 ready to go. You'll know if anyone attempts a job like this that you'll start off with, best thing is to start off with one window, maybe then one window and as a whole project. Then maybe you can get yourself organised for 2, and by the end you're running pretty fast and you're doing a bunch at a time. So there's 3 in. The little blue paint around the edges is yet to be touched up. Got to say, it's a very satisfying feeling when you peel that brown paper off. That's all of that side done. Another view, you can see there the right hand window has the 2 bolts in either opposing corner. That was just to put a slight bend into the panel to match the hull, top sides. And as a bit of a safety net too, but like I said, if they're done properly with Sikaflex, you cannot get them out. You need to smash them up with a hammer. A sledgehammer. I looked from the inside, those white frames around the windows were a bit of a mess on this boat, so we were able to tidy those up too. Finished job. A lot of work, but it was manageable because you can do one at a time. Follow the instructions and it'll all go well. The 2 other skills you need to master are cutting and drilling Perspex. We just used a jigsaw and then a belt sander. Jigsaw to rough it in, to cut the Perspex, and then a belt sander to tidy it up. And then for drilling the holes, you need a very sharp, flat-headed bit that doesn't dig too quickly and push very lightly so you don't push through the other side. But all of that information is available on the internet. Anyway, very doable project, and I think it turned out really, really well. Thanks for watching.